Phil Mackey, Tom Pelissero here in the basement at Winter Park. This video brought to you by Toshiba. So the Vikings now have completed their first two draft picks. First round pick Christian Ponder was actually introduced today at Winter Park. What were your impressions upon talking to him today?
Really seems like a down-to-earth guy, certainly an intelligent guy, has a little bit of a sense of humor. You know, having covered the NFL for close to a decade now, you see these guys come in every year, and it always feels very mechanical, almost robotic. Guys are they're just kind of tired out. They've been on planes all day. This guy was as loose as anybody I've ever seen coming into this situation. Now, does that mean anything? Not necessarily, but when you talk to coaches, when you talk to people who've gotten to know him a little bit, what they say is he can kind of get along with anybody. He's comfortable in social situations. He's a guy who's friends with the equipment manager as well as his offensive line and that sort of thing. It's cliched, but there's something to be said for that. So I certainly had a positive impression of him coming in. Now, of course, it could be months before we actually see him on the football field.
Yeah, the one thing I like personally is the fact that his intelligence is being touted. If it's me and I'm drafting a quarterback, I want high IQ, high emotional IQ. That's why Ryan Mallett slipped so far. You don't want somebody who's going to come in and be a malcontent, and it seems like, at least from a mental standpoint, that's what Ponder brings.
And it's another huge thing. I remember talking to a scout a couple of weeks ago, just talking about how hard it's going to be for a quarterback during this lockout plagued off season here, where you might not have any OTAs or mini camps. Is any rookie quarterback able to step in? And when he unprompted just said, well, Ponder's basically a genius, so some guys are special. And that's how he's regarded around the league. He's intelligent. He's seen as sort of the complete package. And the other thing, one knock on him has been his deep ball. But over and over again, I've heard actually fairly positive things about his arm strength. Certainly anybody can improve their deep accuracy. Doesn't necessarily seem as though that's going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, in the second round, the Vikings take tight end Kyle Rudolph from Notre Dame. Now, he missed the last 6 games of last season with a major hamstring issue. Actually strained his hamstring in July, then tore it off the bone completely in October. So that may have pushed him from the first to the second round.
It sounds like he was pretty surprised, too, that he ended up in the second round. But you're talking about pulling the hamstring all the way off the bone. It's a painful sounding injury. There was something back in October. He said that the MRI showed that the injury is 100% healed. I think some people might be surprised by this pick, but Leslie Frazier has dropped hints going all the way back to the scouting combine in Indianapolis to when we were in New Orleans last month, continually saying we need to get younger at the tight end position. And if you look at it, it's really not a surprise. Jim Kleinsasser, I think, is 33 years old. Visanthe Shiancoe turns 31 this summer. Jeff Dugan is 30 years old, and all those guys are coming into the last year of their contracts. Shiancoe took a step back last season. Kleinsasser has continued to perform at a high level, but really he's just a blocker. He's not someone who's going to frighten you in space. Jeff Dugan's been a guy who's always been physically limited, has just kind of gotten by on a lot of hard work. They did need to upgrade that position. Am I surprised they did it there? Absolutely, because you can go right down the list of defensive back, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line. There's all sorts of positions that I would put above tight end in terms of an immediate need. I think that at this point they just felt that this was a guy who was just too valuable.
Yeah, Spielman called it a no-brainer. In lockout news,
he did call Ponder a no-brainer too. I think that's just might be the
catchphrase
one of his fallbacks. That and again.
Again, he likes to start sentences with
first question he asked him. Well, again.
Yes. I already told you this 5
times. We all have verbal tics.
In lockout news, the 8th U.S. Circuit Court has now issued, or at least granted, a temporary stay, meaning the lockout is back on. But the Vikings were actually able to contact players, the coaches were, and sneak a playbook to Christian Ponder.
Yeah, and I wonder how much the Decertified Players Association wants this stuff to be going on. So it was open for 11 hours today. They allowed players into the facility at 7 a.m. this morning for the first time to work out. Obviously, they've let them come in and do nothing since Tuesday. But then by 6 p.m., the stay comes out, and so now we're back to exactly where we were. This is a temporary stay. This is not a full stay. A full stay would mean that all the way through the appeals process, they would be able to have the lockout. At this point, this is basically waiting until Monday when the next filings are due. The league has another paper it has to file, I think, by 9 a.m., responding to something the players filed. It's a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo, but point being, Christian Ponder got here this morning, did spend significant time with Bill Musgrave and Craig Johnson doing some things on the board. It sounds as though they were going to send him home with some stuff in terms of whether it's a playbook or portions of the playbook. But what I found more interesting was they also wanted him to bring stuff to Percy Hartman and get those two guys working together down in Florida. And also, Rick Spielman said that the coaches reached out to other guys who aren't here over this past week too to get some things in their hands and let guys start looking ahead, because none of them have any exposure to Bill Musgrave's offense. Again, I don't know how much the players Association wants their players to be spending free time while they're locked out studying the playbook. But guys know that they have money at stake, and they're probably going to get up on it.
And Ponder said if the lockout continues, he's going to reach out and contact teammates and maybe even organize some workouts. He's Tom. I'm Phil. Keep an eye on 1500ESPN.com for more draft updates.